What's up, everybody? I have a very special treat for you guys today. I'm not talking to an MMA fighter. We're going to change the script a little bit. Instead, we are talking to one of the leading MMA journalists in the industry. He happens to be my favorite MMA journalist. He joins me today, Mr. Alex Behunin. Alex, thank you so much for being here. It's a real treat for me. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me, man. You nailed my last name. Also, call me a leading MMA journalist. Come on, bro. Like you're just being too nice. You're being too nice.
No, I really mean that. Like, Alex, I love your work because it's authentic, it's different, it's a breath of fresh air. There's so many things about the MMA industry I don't like, namely how it's covered. I don't like a lot of these like clickbaity, sloppy journalists that are out there. And there are some good ones. And I hear from fighters, I hear from people that follow me, like, oh, Tyler, you just hate on like big time MMA journalists because you're not one. I'm like, that's not really true. Like, if I see things I don't like, I'm gonna call it out. And so let's start there, Alex. You've been doing this for a very long time, and I'm gonna ask a very basic question for you. What separates a like good MMA publication from a not so good MMA publication, in your opinion?
Man, that's a tough question, man, because I mean, I'll just say like what I like compared to because I don't know how to answer that correctly because there's all sorts of different ones, right? There's like MMA fighting, which is the lead top, it's the top clicked website, and then um there's like Fight Bananas, right? With
Right.
like David, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just two different things. It's like take what you like. There's like Bloody Elbow for like really deep journalism, like right journalism stuff, and then there's like MMA Island. There's all sorts of stuff. So like what I like is kind of like I don't like the clickbait stuff. I don't like it. I wrote for a couple websites that like tried to get me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just I don't like doing that. Like I'll give you an example. I was do it was for Middle Easy, and I was writing something about Chris Dawkins, and it was a quote about him saying him talking about Cain Velasquez. It was right around when Cain Velasquez got went to jail,
Mm-hmm.
and he just said like he basically what Chris said was he understands what Cain Velasquez did, and if he was in that situation, he would have done the same thing. But what he did technically, he deserves to be in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wrote it. It was a really nice article. What Middle Easy did was they went in and changed my headline and said they went with Chris Dawkins believes Cain Velasquez should be put in jail.
I
And it's
remember that. I
yeah.
remember the feature. I remember reading that.
And so it's just like no, it's just not like I don't like that. And so I messaged him. I said, change that headline right now, or I'll never write another article for you again. And so it's just like that. It's very nasty. And with that comes like distrust with the fighters. Then fighters don't want to talk with media, right? And like without the fighters, we are nothing. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like without fighters, there is no fucking sport, you know? So that's why I'm so sensitive when it comes to the fighters and their emotions. And I don't like when people talk trash to them because man, like that's the one bad thing about being invested with them and getting to know them on a more intimate level and going to go see them train is like you feel for them, man. And
Mm-hmm.
and fighting is a very raw thing, right? Like I always kind of explain it like in football, if you lose, the whole team loses, right? Like
Right.
there's some when a fighter loses, it's just them.
Right.
It's just you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's no one else to fucking blame except you, right? So it's just a raw thing, and so I'm just so sensitive when it comes to that. So I don't know where that came. What makes a good outlet to me is just or a publication is I'm a storyteller, so I like when publications tell stories. I like when they just do different things when they interview regional fighters. I really like publications that go out and do like Nolan King for with MMA Junkie. He's one of the guys that actually takes the time to talk with regional fighters before they make it to the UFC. And that goes a long way, because while they're not in the UFC, they still have a story to be told. And like that's like a big vice. Like if you want in, like talk with these guys before they make it big, because they will remember you.
And to be honest, like there's some of my favorite stories to do. I've talked to a few amateur fighters even because it's just like, hey, like yeah, like come on, dude, let's do this. And they appreciate the opportunity. And then for me, it's getting exposure to a totally different like layer of MMA that I previously wasn't exposed to. So and even in the 2 years I've been doing this, I've been seeing guys that were at the tail end of their amateur career. Now they're making a run in the CFFCs. They're making a run in the Fury FCs, and it's been cool to be a part of. I'd encourage anyone with a publication, hey, go out there and talk to some of the amateur guys even.
Absolutely. You never know which one of these fires is going to make it big, and they will remember you, man. Like they'll remember who takes their time to talk with them, and like I said, like they have a story to tell, and like you said, like their stories they're there to be told, right? And there's not enough people doing it.
Absolutely. You are absolutely spot on. I'm going to ask you another media-esque type of question. This is a tough one. And I don't know how I'd answer it if you asked me, but you hit on something. It's you develop a lot of folks that have like podcasts or independent guys like myself. You develop like a rapport with some of these guys. Like you know who they are. You have like you'll shoot the shit with them. You'll send memes and stuff to them. Stuff that's not even about like fighting, just regular conversation. Then you get asked to like write a feature about an event, and it's like you have to switch in your brain has to flip from hey fighter X, this guy that I know. Now I have the pen in my hand and I have to like be somewhat objective, and that can be hard to do to like flip your brain from like ah shit that's my boy, but my boy's fighting Jamal Hill. Ugh, that's a tough fight. Oh fuck. But I have to write that. Like if I'm worth my salt as a journalist, I have to write this is a tough fight for my boy. Like I have to put that in writing. He looks at that and he's like, "Yo, what the fuck, man? I thought we were boys." That is every journalist's dilemma, and I'd like to just kind of ask your opinion. Like, how have you been able to keep like a good rapport with so many athletes out there, yet be an objective journalist at the same time? Because you're almost like opposing forces in a way.
It's tough. It's tough. And you have like fires are sensitive. And when I say that, like I'm sensitive too, so it's not
Sure.
like it's not a fucking bad, like it's not a bad term. But yeah, like you have to be objection, and you like take your bias out of it, right? Like if you're writing something and you're not being disrespectful with it, I don't think like there should be anything that comes from it, right? Um, like what would be an example of like something like a close fighter? Oh, like Carlos Mota, right? Carlos Mota, I'm very cool with Carlos Mota, but he just got suspended from USADA and he just got released from the UFC. So it's like I know the backstory, right? But like I have to be objectional, and I can't, I have to leave my friendship out of it, and I have to report the news,
Mm-hmm.
right? No matter what, like whatever, no matter what I think, whatever I know, like I have to write it down. So like even like with that stuff, like you have to leave your opinion out of it and just report the news as a news writer, like. But if you're wearing different caps in this industry, like then that's different. Like if you're just like kind of like a media like a figure, or like a, I don't know, like what's the term, like a
Okay.
media personality, like that's different. Like then then
Right.
then you can do it. But I'm a news writer, so like I just write the news. I write the news, and I try not to be disrespectful. Like that's just the number one thing. Like if you write the news, it's black and white, then there should not be any trouble with it. You know what I'm saying? And then if the fire gets mad at you, then like that's on them. But as long as your side of the street's clean, then you have nothing to worry about.
and that is like just pulling back the curtain a little bit, and what I try to do is like for the podcast, it's like it's different. If I have you on my podcast, it's like there's a story I need to tap in there, and I'm gonna get that story out. Like that's what I'm good at. When I'm writing something, it's like it's just the news. Like it's just I look at the matchups and I'm going to like write about like advantages I feel each of the fighters have, and what's going to happen is going to happen, and that's that. So like my writing is actually very impersonal, but my podcasts are actually quite personal, and that's kind of I don't know. But I purposely have like structured all of my stuff like that, and I'm sure you and I know you've done the same. It's cool to see, but it is interesting because we as like journalists have to like flip that switch in our brain. Like you have to consciously do that.
Yeah, and I'm not a analyst, and I've never been an analyst. I never will call myself an analyst. So like I kind of get a free pass. Like I don't break down fights. Like I do it on a very minuscule thing. Like I'm more of the storyline kind of guy. Like what's going on in their fight camp, what's going on in their lives, like the streaks they're on. Like fight wise, like they're way better people. Like you aren't going to come to Alex Behunin for a fucking fight analyst. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not going to. You're going to come to me for other stuff.
Yeah.
So like I do get a free pass when it comes to that. So like,
Mm-hmm.
but like with like fight predictions, like I don't do it very often. And I haven't. There's only like been a couple times where if I were to be like, "Oh, you picked against me," I'm like, "Yeah, dude, sorry."
Yeah, I got out of that. I really try not to do it. It's just it's not. Hey, I'm not a handicapper. That's not how I make my money. And I just I didn't I had to get out of that. But no, it is interesting. Alex, talk me through like you have been doing this for many years, and you've been pretty open about kind of some things that like have been driving forces in your life. You've been sober for many years. I know that's something you're really proud of. But did that have any sort of like impact into like the career path that you ended up taking? Like, did you hit rock bottom one day and then just kind of like got into this? Like, how did you end up like getting into all of this? Really, I'm wondering if there's a connection between the two, or if they're just not even related.
No, they're actually not related at all, man. I got clean in 2012. And I mean, prior to that, like I'd originally gone to college for psychology, like back in
Mm-hmm.
2000. My first year of college was like 2008, and I
Mm-hmm.
graduated in 2000. So yeah, so then there was like then I went to rehab. I went back to school, like, and I graduated in 2012 when I got clean. I had like 6 months clean. Um, and then from there, like I couldn't go to a university because I couldn't pass a math class, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, well, if I can't do school, I have to go work. So I was working at a thrift shop,
Mm-hmm.
and I was perfectly kind of content. Like I had a weekly, I had a paycheck that's fine. And then when I asked for a raise, I asked for like a 50-cent raise, they fucking let me go. And so then I'd like reevaluate what I wanted to do. And this was in like 2016. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna try to go back to school. My mom always wanted me to go back to school and just get my 2-year degree. And so like I was like, but I was scared because I could not pass this fucking math class. I tried every which way. I tried cheating, tried tutors, tried doing the summer class, tried to do 18-week, tried to do the split, and I could not do it. So then I eventually found a way to get through it by doing like an artsy math class, and I ended up passing. And then with there I found within when I was trying to do this math class, I found journalism because I've always been a good writer. And I was like, well, there's only so many which ways you can go with writing, right? Like I could be an author, but like it's very difficult.
Yes.
So I found journalism, and so I ended up going to college for journalism. And it's crazy, like what I originally wanted to do is I wanted to be a entertainment reporter and write about movies and television. And so like that's kind of what the path I was going. And then I quickly found out like Hollywood is just full of fucking weirdos, and just full of snakes and like everything. And then and but like on the side, I was writing in my college publication. I was writing about fighting like a little bit, and then I had my own website that I was doing like just kind of previews and stuff. And then the pandemic at 2020 hit, and everything kind of shut down. I was like, all right, dude, what like I had to kind of come to like, what am I doing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I've been watching fighting since 2005. I haven't missed a card and since I've been to rehab in 2020, like late 2011, right? So like, you know, and so I started going that way, and I put out my first Humanizing Athletes was Jorgen De Castro. He was my first interview as well, and I just kind of thought like, you know, because I always hit people up, and the biggest advice I always got was like, be different. Like anybody can break down fights, anybody can do predictions, everybody can do recaps, just be different. And I was like, all right, well, like when I meet somebody, I want to know what their favorite movie is, right? So like
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna ask fighters what their favorite movie is, and it kind of just snowballed from there. And then yeah, so that's kind of like how Humanizing Athletes started, and then from there, I started writing for Bloody Canvas, which isn't around anymore, and it's been a weird journey, man. And like I didn't go to school for MMA for like combat sports or sports reporting. I want to be entertainment reporting. It was kind of like how I got a glance at like how nasty that place is and how cutthroat it is, and so I just kind of leaped to combat sports because I've been a fan since 2005, you know?
Have you ever like had an interview that you've done and there's something that happened like, and maybe it's just me, but have you ever like done something like written a feature on somebody or did a podcast with somebody and then you drop your pen or you stop the Zoom recording and you put it out there for people to react to, and inside your gut you're like, that one might be something, like that one might be something, and then holy shit, something happens, somebody puts eyes on it, somebody who's like an influencer is like reading the words that you put down, and then your stuff's getting reshared, and then people are like, it's starting to like mushroom cloud, and you're just like, wow, like here I am, like in my basement or in my office. I just wrote that a couple hours ago, and now it's like taken off. Like, has something like that? Like, can you give me an example of like something it is that you've worked on that you thought might be good, but then everyone else like really reacted to and was like, "Holy shit, this is fucking awesome!" And you're just kind of like, "Wow, that's freaking crazy. I did that."
I mean, the one that kind of like comes straight to mind is my Shavkat Rakhmonov Humanizing Athletes. And it wasn't like I did not I had no idea the way it was going to take off the way it did. Because I was like, it's he only gave me like five answers, right? So I was like, it's not the normal 17 answer thing. So I was like, no one's really gonna care.
Right.
And so when he said his favorite animal is a horse and his favorite food's a horse, I didn't even put the two together until somebody said, what? And it fucking blew up and it went viral and dude, I had people that I hadn't talked to in ages,
Mm-hmm.
people from other countries, like, dude, what is this? Like, you know, like I see this everywhere. And I'm just like, I, it's too hard to explain if you had no idea. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
that's really the one that like really, really, really took off. And yeah, I mean, I've had a couple other like kind of stories I've written that like Luke Thomas has kind of complimented me on, or like people within the industry that have like kind of complimented me on. But like as for like a huge thing that like really really took off, it's the Humanizing Athletes with Shotgun Rachmanov. Chris crazy.
I like. Let's talk about humanizing athletes for a second. So you said your advice to people out there, like, hey, just be different, and you found your niche by like asking fighters stuff that really has nothing to do with fighting. But I think that's cool. Like, it shows. I think it's like a really good reminder, and your title says it all: humanizing athletes. That like these aren't just like avatars that like beat the shit out of each other and bleed all over the place. Like you're talking about somebody who has a daughter who likes to listen to LL Cool J and whose favorite place to visit is Disney World or whatever the case is. Like they're like these reminders that there's more to it than what's being like reported on. Like there's like a story, a really unique story here that you're stringing together. No one else probably would have like thought that would be newsworthy, but you found out a formula, you put it together, and like the fight community is reacting to it. Like, can you tell me like what gave you that idea? Like, what planted that seed in your head? Like, you know what, I'm going to be different by not even asking about fighting. Like, and did you ever like have editors or people tell you like, Alex, this is never going to work? Like, you're wasting people's time. Like, what made you do this? I guess is what my question is.
Yeah, I mean, it was just it was it was just so I started I was first just asking fighters what their favorite movies are, because that's my like fighting and movies. Those are my two
Those are your
things.
things.
Like those are my things, man. You can see like my Clockwork Orange
Yep.
right there. Yeah, like I'm saying, like that's my thing. So like I started out with that, and it kind of snowballed. It kind of snowballed from there. But yeah, I was just like I was just kind of at the point I was a nobody. Like the fighters didn't know who I was, so I messaged probably 200, 300, 400 fighters on Instagram. I emailed them, and I would like go to sleep, and the next day I would get like 4 or 5 people like that message me back, and I was like, oh cool, like and it was like it kind of so it started like that, and so I with the humanizing athlete, and it's crazy because like throughout the years, I always get one person like, how is this humanizing them, man? Blah, 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 blah. And like bro, like in hindsight, I could have probably named it like fighters favorites or favorites fighters, you know what I'm saying? But like what I was thinking about is like if someone that has no idea what MMA is, or they only know fighting from Conor McGregor, right? And they see humanizing athletes, I feel like just like the casual sports fan, not even a fight fan, it's like a casual sports fan, they say humanizing athletes, and they say, and then they see the fighter. I feel like that would at least get them to look at it, like look at like humanizing Ilya, look humanizing these fighters, right? So like I kind of used it in that sense. Like I used it for the casual fucking sports fan. Like I didn't like, you know what I'm saying? Like I could care less about what because hardcore fight fans, they know like that, they know what's up, so it's the name was kind of used in a purpose, but yeah, man, it's crazy, and no one ever told me it wouldn't work. I actually like emailed Chuck Minihall, who I think is the best sports writers on the planet. I emailed him, and I got on a Zoom with him to kind of like pick his brain about it, because before I was doing the like the how I do it now with on social media, I would write like a little preview. I would kind of describe the fighter, tell him who he is, what their last fight was, and everything, and then I would drop the list, and I would share that and only like I don't know, only I wish I knew like how many people would actually click that link, but like it wasn't a whole lot. And that I had like kind of like my core group that would like retweet it and share it and check it out. And then like after like a year or two, I was like, I have to be honest, like when someone shares a link, I rarely click the link to go, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we live in a social media era where like we have short attention spans where we just want to see it and go. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, I'm gonna take the list, and I'm gonna put it right there for people to check, so they don't have to
Don't have to
outsource
click
the.
anything.
Exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's when it really exploded. That's when it really, really, really took off. So I mean, it took like a year and a half for it to even get going, right? Like I have like they're all like my original tweets are still up with my original articles, and they didn't get many clicks.
It's a
you know?
personality driven business, truly. I
Yeah.
mean, it is so like Alex, I'll tell you, like that is the hardest thing I think I've ever fucking done in my entire life. It really is. Like, I don't think people really understand unless you're on in this space, like how we are. Like, I don't think people understand like how much work is involved and like how difficult it is because it's one of those things where like your natural abilities, like as a writer, like how you interview people, like yes, those are inherent to you, but it's like having you're reliant on somebody to give you a chance and like whether that be another fighter, a publication, whatever the case is, like you are relying on somebody else to give you an opportunity, give you a platform to show people what it is that you can do. And the first year of me doing this was like being left on red. It was nobody paying any attention to me at all. And something told me where I was like, you know what, then, well, then fuck that. I'll keep going. Like, I'm not going to take no for an answer. Somebody is going to give me an opportunity. So I was like, you know what, for me, I'm just going to stick to local fighters then. I'm going to hit up local fighters. I'm going to talk to amateur fighters. I'll get somebody to take a chance on me. For me, like the fighter that it's a backstory, but we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. But for me, one of the first fighters to give me an opportunity was Anthony Smith, believe it or not.
Oh,
It was like one of my first interviews I ever did was actually Anthony Smith. I almost like shit my pants and was like sweating profusely getting ready for that first interview. Now I wouldn't think anything of it, but at the time, holy shit. I wanted to ask you like what like this is such a difficult space to like cut your teeth into, and you talked about there might be only a handful of people like your boys that are like retweeting your stuff and sharing your content. What made you keep going? Because there's so many people that look at that and would have been like, yeah, fuck this after a while. Like after a year of it, it's like, fuck this. And I see them. I see all these people I used to follow, and they haven't posted in like a year. They haven't put any content up in a year. Their last article they wrote was 3 years ago. Like, what kept you doing this?
it's tough, man. And it's yeah, it's a question that I always have to kind of ponder myself because man, like one of my biggest fears is failure. It is. It's it's what like froze me for a long time because I was like, I don't want to fail. Like it's so embarrassing. You know what I'm saying? So like getting into this, not knowing, like not having any connections, having the fighters, like I know all the fighters, of course, but none of the fucking fighters know me, right?
Right.
So like, it was just kind of a thing where like at first, like I was just kind of having fun, and I was like, all right, like like am I gonna have a career out of this? I don't know. Like I'm just gonna keep going. And plus, it was during the pandemic where like I didn't know if the fucking world was gonna implode or like who knows. And like so I was like, if we're all gonna die, I might as well have fun while doing it. Like, uh,
Sure.
um, but then like once it kind of started breaking out and like I'm very thankful like when I was like, yeah, I want to do this as a career. And I had savings, like I had money saved up, so like that's one of the big reasons why I didn't stop because I had a little bit of money saved up that I was like, all right, like basically give myself like a year and a half to like really really go really like make this a career path. And like I just kind of kept going and kept going and kept grinding. Like that's what I don't know, like a lot of people want to do what like people want to break into this industry, but like they don't understand the grind that it takes. Like, and I don't know if people want to do that grind, right? Like they say they do, but
Mhm.
like until you write like 80 articles and you're getting paid maybe nothing, like you're not getting paid anything, or you're getting paid shit, like it takes a very special someone to like be like, all right, I'm gonna keep going because it sucks, man. Like there's not a lot of money in MMA. There's not a lot of money in MMA. Like, yeah, there's not enough money in MMA media, but there's not enough money in MMA period, dude.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's just not like you're not getting into this industry to become a fucking millionaire,
Yeah.
Like it's just it's not in the cards. So like um why I kept going was like I got lucky because I had some money saved up, and I really wanted to make this a career. So I wanted to grind, and I was gonna eat shit for as long as I could to do it. And I thank God that I did, because um I th- people will, if you work hard enough and you grind hard enough and you keep going, people will see that. And when people will see that, it just takes one person to kind of see that, and you have to kind of throw yourself out there, man. Like I went from bloody canvas to Kate Side Press, and with bloody canvas, I was getting paid nothing, nothing. I was writing for them, I was doing podcasts for them, and like that was, what I'm saying, like there was just no money in it, and then I threw myself out there. Where like I was like, I want to, can I write for you guys? And Jay Anderson, who's one of the best editors out there, man, like he gave me a shot, and so that's kind of where I really started, because Case Press is credentialed by the UFC, right? So that's where I got started, writing and breaking news, and then that's where I covered my first UFC event, was through Case Press. And then with Case Press, I just like, the pay is very small, but at least I have a bigger platform within that,
Mhm.
right? And they gave me the opportunity to go cover a UFC after busting my ass for a year, you know?
Good for you. Like, and I'm glad that you stuck with it and you didn't give up. It is so difficult, and it is so easy to just be like, you know what, like I've done like 150 podcasts. I've done 200 podcasts and I haven't seen any money yet. And it's just like, I'm going to find something else to do. And I think it's like one of those things where it's like, if you keep going at it, if you keep applying yourself, like eventually people are going to notice. And whether you end up writing for a publication like how you are, or if you're just doing your own thing like me, I hope if you're like a small podcast, or if you're just getting into this, I hope you're watching this, and I hope you are really like thinking about some of the things that we said, because this is not easy. This is really difficult, and you really have to do it because you love it. Like, and if you don't love it,
Get out now.
you are going to flame out. You will not. I've been doing this for over 2 years and I haven't made money.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because I don't do this to make money. I'm fortunate where I have a good paying job. I don't need this. This is just something I do for fun. But if you're going into this with this like illusions, like, oh, I'll be insta famous and I'll make $1 million, like, bro, I'm telling you, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, no, it does not. And like, yeah, like you might be the best writer on planet Earth, and you think like, oh, I'm gonna like get in the MMA media sphere and make it. No, it's not, dude. Like
Yeah.
there's been people in this industry that have been bending over backwards trying to make it, man. Like James, my buddy James Lynch has always said, like, you have to love this sport, right? And like you have to, a lot, like I'm gonna say like 80% of the media sphere, like they're either doing this as a side gig, right? Like they have their job, and then they're doing this as a side gig, like
That's
and that's,
me.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? And that's okay. Like that's just the reality of it, man. Like it's fucking tough to survive in this, and but like but we're all thankful for guys like you that are doing this as a side gig, that are giving voices to the voiceless, of giving voices to amateur fighters and regional fighters, right? Because there's people that have big platforms that aren't doing it, right? So at least you are trying to do what you're doing, you know.
And I wanted to like get your advice for somebody. If there's somebody out there that could ask you something, and let's just say like they're just getting started in this. We'll use me as an example. Like, what would your advice be to somebody like me who's like on the fringe of like MMA, who's just getting started? And I've been doing it for a couple years, but I have a pretty small following. I mostly interview Bellator fighters and PFL fighters and local professionals and amateur fighters, and that's kind of what I have done. And I actually enjoy doing it quite a bit, and I'm actually really content. I'm actually really happy. I get When Tyler, when are you going to talk to a UFC fighter? It's like, oh, when I feel like it. Like I don't even really think about it. I'm actually really happy in the space I currently occupy. But for somebody like me who's like on the fringe of this, it's costing them money to do what everything that I do. Like, what would your advice be to a guy like me that's kind of like on the fringe of doing this, and I've been doing it for a couple of years? I'd love to hear your words of wisdom.
Yeah, so I always have people DM me like I wanted to like, what's your advice? What's your advice? Give me advice. And my advice has always been to just do it. Like
Mm-hmm.
like find out what you want to do, right? Like if you want to write, then start writing. If you want to podcast, start podcasting. If you want to interview fighters, start interviewing fighters. If you want to go cover events, go cover events. Like just you have to fucking start because
Mm-hmm.
no publication, no outlet, no YouTube channel is going to be like, all right, let's get this guy
Yeah.
with nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to have a resume or like something before a publication picks you up, and like they're not just going to pick you up by your fandom. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to just start doing it. And like people are like, wait, where do I start? There's plenty of websites that'll give you a platform, or just like there's start your own YouTube channel if you want a podcast and do it that way. Start your own website, Squarespace or Substack or whatever the platform. Just start doing it. Like like that's the biggest advice is just start doing it. Like you have to. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no other way to like that's just what it is. And then like if you're already kind of established and you're doing it and like just continue the grind. Like you have to fucking grind and eat shit. Like if you want to continue to do it, like you just have to just eat it. Like you know what I'm saying? Like and like you said, like for you doing it 2 years and you're paying to like do it. Like you're doing it because you love this sport and it makes you happy, right? Like
Yeah.
like do what makes you happy. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, like I literally am quite content actually. I don't want for much. I don't need money. I'm actually really happy with everything that I have. And I do it because I love it. And it's as simple as that. Like I've never looked at it as like, oh, I'm being like a cool guy by doing this. I've never thought of it that way. I've always actually thought about it like this is a way where I'm having fun, but the impact I'm making really isn't for me. It's for the guy on the other end of the camera because it's like, okay, well, I just like MMA and I'm going to hit up this guy and let's put this out there and let's see what happens 2 or 3 years from now. And let's just see what happens. And, it's been pretty cool. I've been fortunate enough to like have some fighters on. They've actually been quite successful. So,
yeah,
you
it's,
know,
it, it's so awesome. And you said that you mostly interview Bellator and PFL fighters. Like that's awesome, man. Like Bellator and PFL give a lot of access to media members and like people, you know what I'm saying? Like the UFC is very strict when it comes to that.
mm-hmm.
And that's like what people want to do is they want to talk with UFC fighters, they want to go cover UFC events. So it's like, bro, like you're
It's
not
not
going to do
that
that.
easy. Yeah,
It's
it's
not.
not that easy.
It's not easy at all. UFC fighter, like, and the bigger the sport gets, the less accessible.
Accessible. Yes.
Exactly, man. Like during the pandemic, even before that, fighters were very, very accessible. But as the sport grows and like the more clickbaity shit happens, the more shitty fans get, like they're not going to start answering you, man. So like
Mm-hmm.
with PFL and Bellator and LFA and all of these promotions, like they're giving you access to fighters. Take it, take it,
Yeah.
take it, take it. Go cover the events because it will give you experience. Like that's what like you want experience before you get to the UFC. Just like fighters, they want experience fighting before you get to the UFC. Like media members, you want experience before you get to that UFC because if you fuck up and embarrass yourself on the UFC, like
You're
you're
done. It's
you're
it.
done, bro. Like it's a big, big, big platform. And so like Bellator and PFL, they give access to anybody who asks for it, man. Like you just go do that, man. And like it's no different than paying your way to go do a UFC. You know what I'm saying? Like doing a Bellator and PFL might be even better than doing the UFC because, like I said, like even me, I've covered now I think 50 plus UFC events. even me, like it's hard to get access to fighters that the UFC doesn't give you access to, right? Like they give you the media day fighters, and then and then if it's a pay per view, they'll give you the pay per view fighters, and then the media day guys, right? Like other than that, you have to go get them all on your own. It's not how it used to be. So like at least the Bellator guys, like they're all over the place, and you can do whatever the fuck you want, any content you want, like and then if you can't even and if you can't do Bellator or PFL, hit up your regional promotions because they're dying for coverage. And man, like if you get in with them, like you can have all of the coverage you want, man. And that's how you establish relationships, by going to the regional shows, because someone at that regional show knows somebody from somewhere else, and that dude knows somebody from the UFC. And then you start doing it, because connections are very, very important in this industry, man. And that's it's I mean, I'd say relationships in any industry is very, very important, right? Like it's who you know. But in this industry, man, like it's a very, very close, what's the word, like it's
A secret society, if you will.
kind of, man, like it's just like it's a very small pond, right? It's a
Yeah.
very pond. And like so everyone knows a lot of people, man. And it's just like the more you know. And if you go out and cover some regional event, like you never know who's watching you.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, before I let you go, I want to ask you a couple MMA questions and then a few questions about you. I want to start with MMA. There's a couple things that are going on right now. Erin Blanchfield just put on a freaking fantastic performance. She chokes out Jessica Andrade after basically beating the shit out of her in the first round. This was a huge, huge fight. She's a young, exciting fighter in a division that desperately needs some new gals, some new faces. I am of the belief that the UFC flyweight division was one of the most stagnant divisions in the entire promotion. Now you have a young stud who's coming in here and is just like having her way with girls that you wouldn't really necessarily think. I was so impressed by her performance. I'd love to get your thoughts on what Erin Blanchfield did, what it means for the UFC and for the 125-pound female flyweight division.
Yeah, man, I've been very high in Blanchfield since her days in Invicta, man. And she's a very special talent. And like you said, man, I feel like now the women's flyweight division has some life in it. And what she did to Andrade is very, very impressive, because man, like Lauren Murphy is super fucking good in that division. Like she's very, like, say what you want, but man, she's tough as shit. She beats a lot of girls in that division. Jessica Andrade just beat the fuck out of her
Right.
in Brazil. Beat her down. And Blanchard, it is MMA math, but Blanchard went in and just steamrolled Andrade, man. And it's funny because like you would think with Valentina fighting next weekend, the timeline is basically perfect for them to fight again. And if she gets it next, there would be no complaint from me. My only thinking is like she is still only 23 years old. I would like to see her fight one more top contender. Even though she just beat Jessica Andrade, right? Who is probably, pound for pound, one of the best fighters on the planet.
Yes.
But like I would like her to, Talia Santos or Manon Farrow, just one more name on her resume. But with the timeline and with Valentina always liking to fight, like it just kind of makes perfect sense.
I think if Valentina wins the fight, which she like, hey, it's MMA, anything can happen, but I can't bet against Valentina Shevchenko. And I'm a huge Alexa Grasso fan. I really, truly am. I love her. She's one of my favorite fighters to watch. But if it checks out, if it all goes according to plan, they're going to need to have a new contender. And hey, the fight to make is probably going to be Blanchfield this winter. I would think that's probably what's going to happen. And if Grasso pulls off the unexpected, I would expect them to run that one back.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to me. It was definitely one of the things that I wanted to pick your brain about. And then the Islam Makhachev fight going up against Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, talk about a freaking war. I'm curious how you had that one scored, and I want to know your thoughts on the whole IV scandal.
Yeah, so I had scored it for Islam 3 rounds to 2. Although if the judges had scored it for Volkanovski, I wouldn't have a argument. It was a very close fight, man. Yeah, it just shows how goddamn good Alexander Volkanovski is, man. He is. I mean, he's just on another level, man. And it's crazy because you could you could probably like if you look at that division, Volkanovski probably get there's a few other names in there, but like you could probably think that Volkanovski gives Islam the hardest fight out of all of them, right? Like it's crazy, obviously there's Arman Sarukian, who's probably there's Beno Darius. Those are the two guys that are like I think could probably beat Islam right now. But man, that was such an impressive showing, man. And the IV scandal, man, I think IV should be legal. So like
Mm-hmm.
like I don't really care about the topic.
Mm-hmm.
Although I mean if IVs are illegal, right? Like they were illegal and Makachev took one, then like what's up? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And there's been some reporting that back in 2019 they did um some kind of what I guess what is it? They kind of reprimanded some of the
yeah.
language there and stuff. So I don't know, like if you broke a rule, like that's something to look into. But I've always thought the IV should be legal because it just helps the virus anyway. So like, like I don't think it's that big of an issue. But goddamn, do these fucking MMA fans think they are? Goddamn, dude, like they're acting as if like Islam fucking blatantly cheated, right? Like it's crazy. Like there's like some crazy conspiracy or some shit. I don't know. MMA fans are so extreme. It's crazy to me.
I want to try to humanize you a little bit. So I came up with some questions that I had for you. And I first and foremost wanted to ask, like, what is your favorite meal to have? Because I know that you're out west. There's a lot of good Mexican food out there, but I had to ask, like, if I could take you to dinner to any place of your picking, where would we be going?
Yeah. Oh. I do love Mexican food. It's fucking great. Do love a good burger. But surprisingly, my favorite meal is macaroni and cheese.
Really? Wow.
Yep.
Okay, some comfort food then.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And it's crazy. Like if I see it on the menu, like I have to try it. You know what I'm saying? Like I just have to try it wherever I go.
What is your favorite hobby that has not that doesn't involve MMA?
Man, it's watching movies. I really love watching movies. And I also love collecting action figures.
Okay.
Funny enough, you can kind of see them up
Yeah,
on.
the Star Wars guys.
Yeah, there's all
Oh
sorts.
wow, you got quite a collection.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's kind of yeah, that's my thing. So watching movies and collecting action figures is are two of my hobbies.
What music do you listen to?
I am a hip hop head and R&B.
Okay.
But like Kid Cudi, The Weeknd, those are my two favorite artists. But I'm more of kind of like an R&B head kind of nowadays. But I mean, I used to realistically, I love basically any music genre. But like if we're like gonna point out what my favorite genre is, it's probably R&B right now.
Take me to like walk me through what a typical day looks like for you, like for an event. So let's say like, a UFC event that you are going to cover. We know most of the actions begins on Friday and you're working until Sunday morning, basically. Can you break down what an event looks like when you're covering one? And if we could start from Friday and take me to, the early Sunday morning, because I know that's how late you're working.
Yeah, so So Friday is early morning weigh-ins. If it's on site, I go to the UFC Apex, do the early morning weigh-ins. I like to take pictures of the weigh-ins. Because I've always kind of thought like, MMA junkie, MMA fighting always streams the weigh-ins, so I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna take pictures, right? It's kind of silly, but if it's ceremonial weigh-ins, then that's later in the day. But so then you go attend those. If it's not ceremonial weigh-ins and it's like an Apex show, then it's right after the weigh-ins. So then Friday it's basically done. I'll try and do like I'll try and get some last minute interviews in if I can. If not, then I just kind of chill the rest of Friday. I'll usually LFA's on, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll report on LFA. Saturday comes fight day, so get up, um, kind of prepare for the day. I'll like charge my batteries, charge everything right. Go to the event. And so I'll go sit cage side, right? If it's a fighter that I want to talk to afterwards, I'll go back to the media room and talk with them after the fight with their post fight interviews. If not, then I'll just continue doing cage side, getting content of like them walking to the cage, them leaving the cage, stuff like that. Kind of be on. So I work for MMA Mania, so I do social media
Mm-hmm.
for them. So I'm always on social media doing all the clips and stuff like that. Um, After the fight, I write 5 articles for MMA Mania that are due on for Sunday. So I'm up writing those 5 articles. If it's a pay-per-view, I'm up till usually like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. If it's like a Apex fight like this weekend, it's gonna end by like 7, 8. So I'll probably be up till midnight, 1 o'clock. Um, and so that's fight day. And then Sundays is usually like what what I've come to do. So like what I was supposed to do for Mania is write on Sundays, right? But I'm like
Mm-hmm.
I want one try and do one day where it's like I just want to fucking chill. So I want Sundays. So that's why I stay up and write Saturday night so I can have my Sunday free and just kind of sleep in and just kind of chill. So Sundays is usually my relaxed day. If Fury FC has a card, then I do social media for them. If not, then yeah, it's Sundays usually just kind of just hang out.
All right, cool. So I have a question I've always wanted to ask you. What is the most nervous you've ever been before you've interviewed a fighter?
Man, who was my most nervous? Let's see.
While you're thinking, I'll tell you mine. The most nervous I ever got before an interview, like when I was talking to him, I was completely fine. But like, there's that moment like where you're waiting around. It was Randy Couture. I was like, oh my fucking God, I'm about to interview Captain America. I used to watch this guy freaking fight all the time. I hope I don't fuck this up. Like, and then you get to talking to him. He's like the coolest, most laid back guy ever. And, I did my homework and all the nerves went away as soon as we got started. But it's just that anticipation where you're waiting and you're just kind of like, you got the butterflies in your stomach. And I'm like, oh man, like I'm actually pretty nervous for this one. And he was like, I just did that one earlier this month. And it was like the most nervous I've ever been for an interview. It was Randy Couture. And I don't get nervous anymore, but that was one I was definitely nervous.
Right. No, I mean that's the fighter to be nervous for, man. It's
Yeah.
a that is royalty. Yeah, there's been a couple. I think I was really nervous talking with Josh Emmett the first time. He was like my second or third interview ever,
Mm-hmm.
and so that one like I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like, and I was pretty nervous for that. Talking with Robert Whitaker was pretty nerve wracking, especially because I was in a hotel room covering a PFL event, so
Uh-huh.
I was nervous about the Wi-Fi not being good, and just talking with Robert Whitaker because I've heard that he's actually very easy to interview. It's just he had already done a lot of media rounds, so it was just trying to be kind of different and trying to break the ice. So that was very nerve wracking. Um, Talking with Derek Lewis the first time was kind of nerve-wracking, just because like he's very he can just kind of poke at you a little bit. So that was a big one. And then no, Nate Diaz, talking with Nate Diaz that was like, I was like, holy shit. And then talking with Dana White the first time, I was like, oh shit, like that's like someone that you feel the presence in the room. And holy dude, knock on wood, but next week I'll talk with John Jones for the first time, and he is my favorite fighter of all time. So I will probably have butterflies before that one.
Well, you have interviewed some of my favorite fighters of all time. For me, I'll tell you more when we're not recording. But Alex, like you're a freaking you're the man, and I wanted to ask you before I let you go, what are some other things that you got working up that you can maybe talk about, and how can people access your work?
Yeah, so my byline is at MMAmania.com. I do social media for them and I write for them. Yeah, I kind of have some projects that I'm kind of like so I have this one that I've been kind of I have two, like, so a new series called My Worst Camp, where basically a fighter's gonna kind of go through their worst camp, and that's gonna be an MMA Mania specialty. Um and then also on MMA Mania, me and my buddy Jake Riggs are gonna start doing a weekly podcast where we have our own little thing. It's gonna be very, very kind of cool. And I did this or that with Bellator fighters last time I was there, so I'm gonna try and bring that back for a couple UFC fighters next week, and then the PFL is in town in April, so I'm going to bring that back as well. So it's always just trying to do kind of new and fun content that I feel like people might enjoy. You know?
And that's why I'm a huge fan of you. You make it interesting for me, and I get sucked in. I see your work out there, and I get sucked into it, and I'm just like, this is cool. This is interesting. There's nobody else out there that's doing what you do, and that's why I wanted to have you on my show, just mainly to tell you that your work has been super impactful on my own, and you're a good person for people on the fringe of MMA media to look to, because anyone can write up a list of 5 questions and recycle those questions every single time. But there's an art to storytelling. It's really difficult to do. And you, as the interviewer, have to have like a certain responsibility and like trying to like draw that out. And that's where the magic happens. If you're able to get that out, you have something, you have a gift that is really difficult to put into words, and it's really difficult to teach, and I think you do a really good job of doing that, and I wish more MMA media people were like you and did that, because it's hard. It's not easy to do what you do.
Well, thank you for the kind words. That man, I really do appreciate that, and everything you told me off camera too, man. Like, it really makes my heart warm, man. And I just, if I could help at least one person, you know what I'm saying? And like, that's all, I want to leave a mark on this world. And if I can help one person, like that's good enough for me, man. There's a lot of negativity. This industry is fucking brutal. There's a lot of, there's just a lot of shit, man. And I feel like, just bringing a little fun to this sphere, like that's just, that's just kind of like my goal, man. Is I want to have fun with this stuff, and like bringing I try and bring the personality out of the fighters, right? Because that's like, fighting is a very personal thing, right? And like in a sport where you're trying to stick out, like you want to bring their personality out, right? So that's why I think humanizing athletes is so important, because with with the UFC trying to locate stars nowadays, right? There's not a lot of there's not a lot of big names nowadays. So fans are trying to search for that one guy. Like, if you can look at one fighter's humanizing athletes and be like, wow, I have the same favorite movie. I'm gonna root for that guy this weekend, right? And then you see them fight, and then you really like them, and then you really like their fight. Like that's enough. Like that, I did my job to connect a fan with a fighter, and you know what I'm saying, and hopefully they'll they'll continue their career, right? So that's basically my goal. Like that's my roadmap, and if I do it, that's good, you know. So
Well, Alex, you're the man. I love reading your stuff. I love watching your stuff. I'm going to put all your contact information in the description for this video. Make sure you guys check that out. Alex, thank you for being here. I hope we can have you back very, very soon because I love talking to you.
bro, anytime you want me, I'm here.